What happens when the man who signs your paycheck hears you scream at the intern you just made cry? Chase Whitmore stood in the back lot of Warehouse 7, fingers wrapped around a dented coffee mug, wearing a faded orange safety vest that hung loose around his frame. His beard was thicker than usual, dyed gray at the edges. The glasses helped two big, square lenses that made him look like a guy who fixed printers, not the CEO of a company that ran 10 massive distribution centers across 3 states. Nobody here had ever met him. It wasn't strange. He'd inherited the business from his father 2 years ago, and the warehouses were part of a chain his father had grown quickly in the last decade. Chase had only visited 3 of them since taking over, and always in a suit. Warehouse 7? Never once. He was here now because something didn't sit right. Over the past couple months, complaints from this location had trickled up to corporate. High turnover, missed inventory deadlines, unusually low morale. Chase had questioned the district manager, but all he got was the usual, "We're just short-staffed, sir." Working on it. But when the 3rd intern in 6 weeks quit without notice, citing hostile environment in her exit survey, Chase decided he'd stop listening to filtered reports and see things for himself. He got an ID badge made under the name Charlie Warner, told only one person at HQ about the plan, and signed up as a new warehouse trainee. Nobody questioned it. The place was desperate for help. Staffing had been tight ever since last year's budget cuts and a wave of resignations. Hiring was slow because the manager reportedly didn't have time to train properly. Chase was about to find out what that meant. "Warner," a voice barked across the concrete. "Stop daydreaming and grab that pallet jack." Chase turned. A tall man in his late 40s stomped toward him, clipboard in hand, jaw clenched like he was chewing on a nail. This was Leon, the warehouse supervisor. He hadn't even looked Chase in the eye during his first day. "Yes, sir," Chase muttered, keeping his head down as he moved toward the stack of shrink-wrapped boxes. He'd been working here for 4 days now. Long shifts, little direction, no training, just barked orders and cold stares. Still, he wasn't here to complain. He was watching, and what he saw wasn't great. Leon was everywhere, loud, fast, but not helpful. He hovered when things were going wrong but disappeared when people needed guidance. Only a few folks dared speak up. Most just kept their heads down. Then there were the interns. Warehouse 7 ran a local job training program, giving high school seniors part-time work experience. The idea was good, but nobody here treated them well. Today, Chase was working alongside a girl named Kayla Jameson, 17, quiet and clearly exhausted. She was trying to stack boxes twice her size while Leon shouted at another worker in the aisle behind her. "You okay?" Chase asked quietly, helping balance the stack. She nodded, but her hands trembled. "Didn't get a break yet," she whispered. "Got here at 7. Been doing returns since." Chase's jaw tightened. That was illegal. Interns were supposed to get mandatory breaks every 4 hours. Before he could say anything else, Leon's voice cut the air like a whip. "Kayla. What the hell is this?" She flinched. Leon marched toward them, holding a clipboard. "You logged this return under the wrong SKU. You trying to make us lose contracts?" "Ha! I thought it was." "You thought?" Leon stepped right up to her. "You don't get paid to think, little girl. You're lucky we even let high school kids in here." Her face went pale. Hands clenched at her sides. Chase felt something snap in his chest. "Hey," he said, stepping forward. Leon turned, glaring. "What?" Chase didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "Back off. She's a kid." "You don't talk to people like that." Leon scoffed. "And who the hell do you think you are? You've been here 4 days. You don't tell me how to manage my floor." Kayla looked down, hiding her face. Chase saw her shoulders shake. Leon wasn't done. "She's lazy. I've had it with these interns. They think they're special because they're in school. I got 2 kids at home and a busted back. You think I'm gonna coddle a girl who can't even read a SKU label?" Chase took a step forward. "You're done." Leon narrowed his eyes. "What did you just say?" Chase reached into his vest and pulled out his wallet. From the back pocket, he slid out a laminated card. The warehouse went quiet. He held the badge up. It read, "Chase Whitmore, Chief Executive Officer." Kayla's head snapped up. Leon's mouth opened, but no sound came out. "I own this place," Chase said calmly, "and I'm not going to let you scream at a teenage intern because you're having a bad day." Leon stammered. I didn't know who you were." "Does that matter?" Chase snapped. You think it's okay to treat people like that if you don't think anyone's watching? The silence hung heavy. Workers had gathered now. Forklifts stopped moving. Every eye was on them. Leon looked around, realizing just how many people had heard him. Kayla wiped her eyes with her sleeve, still not saying anything. Chase turned to her. You okay? She nodded barely. He turned back to Leon. Go to the office. Now. Leon didn't argue. He turned and walked off, his face burning red. Chase looked around at the others. Anyone else want to tell me what's really going on here? Nobody spoke yet. But now they were listening. And for the first time in days, Chase felt like he was finally seeing things clearly. Chase stood in the break room 10 minutes later, watching Kayla stir a packet of instant oatmeal into a chipped ceramic bowl. She hadn't said much since Leon stormed off. Her shoulders were hunched, eyes focused on the counter in front of her. He didn't speak right away. The room was silent except for the low hum of the vending machine and the occasional creak of pipes in the wall. You ever get a proper orientation here? He asked. Kayla shook her head. They gave me a list of stuff to do. That's it. Chase nodded slowly. Did they tell you who to go to if you had a problem? No. I just kinda figured it out. She glanced at him, then away again. We were told not to bug the floor supervisors unless it was important. Chase leaned against the counter, arms crossed. What's considered important? She gave a faint shrug. Not messing something up, I guess. That answer sat heavy in the air. He didn't press her. Instead, he watched as she tried to eat while keeping her hands steady. Her knuckles were red from lifting boxes. Her name tag was frayed at the edges. I don't think anyone's ever said thank you to me here, she said suddenly, not looking up. Not even once. He didn't respond right away. Then, gently, that's going to change. Starting now. She gave a small nod and went back to eating. In the main office, the district manager, Carla Nguyen, had just arrived for a scheduled site check. She wore a navy blouse and carried a worn leather satchel, her expression neutral as she stepped into the administrative wing. Chase intercepted her just outside the HR office before she'd even had a chance to remove her coat. I need 5 minutes, he said. Carla blinked. Of course. What's going on? They walked into a small private office and Chase shut the door behind them. I've been here the past 4 days. Undercover. She stared at him. Why? There's a lot happening here that you haven't seen. Carla exhaled slowly. I knew morale was low, but I assumed it was from the cuts last quarter. I've been trying to get Leon to document performance issues, but he insists the turnover is just from younger workers flaking out. Chase shook his head. No, it's not that. It's how they're being treated. The interns don't get any mentoring, no feedback. They're just thrown into tasks they're not trained for, then scolded when they make mistakes. Carla's mouth tightened. And Leon, he's part of the problem, Chase said. He's not just ineffective. He's creating an environment where people are afraid to ask questions. She looked down, absorbing that. I want you to start interviews today, he said. Privately. I want to hear from the staff directly. No more filtering. Carla nodded. Understood. And schedule a meeting with HR. I think we need to review intern program compliance across all sites. If it's this bad here, it's probably not isolated. She scribbled a quick note in her planner. Got it. Chase tapped his fingers once against the desk, then stood. I'll be on the floor. Back in the warehouse, Chase rejoined the receiving crew. A middle-aged man named Darnell was unloading a shipment of seasonal goods. He moved with mechanical efficiency, his face unreadable. Need another set of hands? Chase asked. Darnell glanced at him, then gave a slight nod. Grab the dolly. They worked in silence for a while, stacking cases and rolling them down the aisle toward the sorting zone. You ever think about quitting? Chase asked quietly. Darnell didn't answer right away. He finished setting down the boxes, then straightened up. Last winter, he said, my wife got pneumonia. I asked to leave early to take her to urgent care. Leon told me if I walked out, don't bother coming back. Chase's jaw tightened, but he kept his voice steady. What did you do? Took her anyway. Missed a day, came back the next. He gave me a write-up for abandoning shift. Darnell looked toward the far end of the warehouse. I can't afford to start over. So I stayed. Chase nodded once. You mind writing that up for HR later today? Not if it actually changes something. It will. They kept working. By early afternoon, word had spread. People were still cautious, but more open. A younger worker named Luis approached Chase near the loading dock. Is it true you're really the owner? Chase didn't offer a yes or no. I'm here because I want to know what's real, not what people tell me in reports. Luis rubbed the back of his neck. I don't want to get anyone in trouble. But this place, it's not run right. Tell me what you mean. Luis looked around, then lowered his voice. Last week, I cut my hand open loading metal frames. Asked for the first aid kit and was told we were out of gauze. They wrapped it with packing paper and duct tape. Who told you that? Floor lead said Leon didn't approve restocking because it wasn't essential. Said to be more careful next time. Chase felt his pulse pick up. You document the injury? Luis shook his head. Didn't want to lose hours? They make you feel like it's your fault when stuff happens. Chase looked him square in the eye. That ends now. Luis nodded, eyes cautious but hopeful. By mid-afternoon, Carla had conducted 6 private staff interviews. She returned to Chase with a notepad and a wary expression. I've got enough to justify a formal investigation, she said. There's a pattern. Retaliation, intimidation, neglect of safety standards. And not a single written record of any of it. Because they were afraid to report, Chase said. She nodded. Exactly. Chase stepped outside for a few minutes to clear his head. The air smelled like rain and diesel. A delivery truck rumbled by, brakes hissing softly. He leaned against the wall, watching the gray sky, thinking about his father. The man had built this place from nothing. Started with a single warehouse and a beat-up box truck. He'd always said the trick wasn't getting people to work hard. It was making them want to. What would he think if he saw this now? Chase pulled out his phone and made a call. Rosa, he said when the assistant answered, I need a restructuring policy drafted by morning. We're overhauling the supervisory protocols. And send a memo to legal. We're reevaluating every intern partnership we've got. He hung up and went back inside. An hour later, the warehouse floor was quieting down. The shift was winding to a close. Workers were trickling into the locker area, boots heavy on the concrete, shoulders sagging. Chase spotted Kayla near the time clock. She looked like she was waiting for something. You good to head out? He asked. She hesitated. I was supposed to get feedback on my hours today. Leon said if I didn't keep up, I'd lose placement. You're not losing anything, Chase said. Finish your hours this week. You'll have a new supervisor by Monday. She looked up at him, finally meeting his eyes. Why are you doing this? Because no one should dread coming to work, he said. Especially not someone still figuring out who they want to be. She gave a quiet nod, then turned and walked out into the parking lot. Chase stood there a moment longer, watching the door swing shut behind her. This place had hidden its problems behind numbers for too long. Now the stories had names and faces, and he wasn't leaving until every one of them had a reason to stay. The next morning, Warehouse 7 was quieter than usual. The usual clatter of pallets and wheels was muted. Word had spread, though Chase had never said the words out loud. Everyone understood Leon wasn't coming back. Not today, maybe not ever. No one spoke about it openly, but eyes followed Chase when he passed. Not with fear, more with calculation. People were trying to figure out if anything would actually change, or if this was just a show. Chase didn't go to the manager's office. He went to the receiving dock, same as before, vest zipped halfway, clipboard in hand. He started the day loading outgoing orders with the pick team. No announcement, no formal speech. Just work. Near the end of first shift, Carla came in with a woman Chase hadn't met before. She was in her late 30s, short black hair tied back, wearing steel-toed boots and a clean gray crew neck. Carla introduced her as Miriam Ng, a site operations auditor from the compliance division. What's your focus? Chase asked her as they walked through the back corridor. Workflow integrity, mostly. But I've been pulled into HR reviews before. Carla briefed me last night. Miriam flipped through a slim folder. There are process gaps here. No documented SOPs. Intern logs are inconsistent. And the safety incident records? They're practically blank for the last 2 quarters. I figured as much. Miriam stopped near the door of the small conference room. I'm flagging the intern program until we can confirm compliance. It's not a shutdown, just a pause. We'll keep the current students, but no new placements until it's fixed. Chase nodded. Good. What about shift leadership? Temporary assignments are ready. I pulled 3 senior crew leads from the other warehouses in the region. They'll rotate through for the next month while we vet internal candidates. They stepped inside the room where Carla had already laid out a stack of files. Chase scanned the names. You think any of the current floor staff are ready for more responsibility? One or two. But no one's been given the chance. They've either been pushed down or ignored. Chase leaned on the edge of the table. Then we start giving chances. That afternoon, Chase sat down with a woman named Elena Vargas. She'd been with the company for 9 years. Ran dispatch for 2 of those. She was sharp, fast with numbers, and people listened when she spoke even if she rarely raised her voice. I'm not asking for more money, Elena said as she folded her arms across her chest. I just want the crews to stop getting punished for things they can't control. Like what? Like being told to finish a load in 30 minutes when it takes 45 if you don't cut corners. Like being written up for one missed scan because the scanner glitched. Like being forced to clock out before your shift ends just so labor numbers look cleaner on paper. Has that been happening often? Weekly. Sometimes daily. Chase looked her in the eye. Would you take on a shift lead role if we offered it? She didn't answer right away. Then she nodded. If I can run it my way. No micromanaging. No ghost metrics. Just real work. Honest expectations. You'll have that. Later, Chase walked the sorting floor with Luis. The young man had been quiet since their first conversation, but now spoke more openly. You fix this place, Luis said, and people might actually stop looking for jobs on their lunch break. How many are? Luis scratched his chin. I know at least 4 who applied to a staffing agency last week. One guy's got an interview with a packaging plant across town tomorrow. What makes them stay even now? Some still hope it'll get better. Others don't have the time or energy to start over. Chase asked him if he'd ever considered becoming a trainer. Luis looked surprised. I'm not. I mean, I've only been here a year. But you know the work and people trust you. You've got a calm way of explaining things. That's rare. Luis hesitated. If there's actual training and not just figure it out, I'd try it. There will be. We'll put together a real onboarding plan this time. By late afternoon, Chase sat in the back office with Carla and Miriam again. The room was warm, papers spread out across the table. A whiteboard had been rolled over from the adjacent break room. It now listed 4 categories: safety, staffing, training, oversight. Start with safety, Chase said. Miriam pointed to the top of the board. We're issuing a site-wide audit. First aid supplies will be restocked weekly, logged digitally. Incident reports will be mandatory, and every shift lead will be retrained on protocol. Staffing. We'll pilot a rotating mentorship program, Carla added, with senior crew leads like Elena pairing with new hires. Interns will have designated mentors, and their tasks will be logged for review. Chase tapped the marker against the whiteboard. No more assigning them to high-risk zones without supervision. Already in motion, Miriam replied. They moved through the rest of the list quickly, each step building on the last. Chase didn't want promises. He wanted deadlines. And for each item, he made sure one person in the room owned it. After the meeting, he walked past the open bay doors. The sun was low, casting long shadows across the lot. Kayla was out there, leaning against the wall with a clipboard, watching a truck pull away. Chase stopped a few feet from her. You planning to stay after the program ends? He asked. She looked at him sideways. Depends. On? Whether you mean what you said yesterday. About things changing. I don't say things I don't mean. Kayla nodded, then held up her clipboard. Miriam asked me to help redesign the intern tracking sheet. Said I know what's missing. You do. She looked back toward the building. Leon used to call this place a stepping stone. Like none of us mattered unless we were moving on. Chase watched her for a moment. What would you call it? She thought about that for a second. I don't know yet, but it should be more than a place people survive. He nodded. Keep that in mind while you help fix it. As he walked back inside, Chase passed a wall near the entrance where a faded poster still hung. It showed a smiling warehouse crew under the company's old slogan, delivering trust every day. The corners were curling. The colors had faded, but the words still mattered. And for the first time in a long while, Chase felt like they might just mean something again. Chase arrived 2 weeks later without the vest, the wig, or the laminated Charlie Warner ID in his back pocket. This time, he walked through the front door wearing a plain dark shirt, sleeves rolled up, and a clipboard tucked under his arm filled with real updates, not cover stories. Warehouse 7 looked different already. The overhead speaker, once used only for clipped announcements and rushed paging, was now quiet. The only sounds were forklifts backing up, boxes being wheeled across polished concrete, and the quiet rhythm of people who weren't waiting for something to explode. Just inside the admin wing, Carla greeted him by the security desk. She handed him a folded packet as they walked. Elena submitted her first 2-week shift report, she said, flipping to a page marked with a sticky note. 0 employee write-ups. For minor safety incidents all logged. 2 new hires successfully completed onboarding. Both said they felt like they knew who to ask when something went wrong. He glanced over the metrics, then folded the packet shut. You think she's ready for permanent? She's already doing the work. Might as well give her the title. He nodded. Get her the offer sheet. And back pay it to her first day as acting lead. They stopped near the break room where a low hum of conversation spilled out. Inside, the whiteboard had been replaced with a weekly schedule posted with names and assigned mentors for each shift. A new corkboard held printed thank you notes from the interns, voluntary, not requested. At a back table, Luis sat with a plastic training model of the warehouse layout, walking a new hire through the order-picking paths. Chase paused at the door, watching. Luis pointed to one aisle, then made a small adjustment to the model with a dry erase marker. Don't rush this corner, he said. It's where most of the missed scans happen. Doesn't matter how fast you are if you have to redo it. The new hire, a guy maybe 19 or 20, nodded and took notes. Chase waited until they were done before stepping in. When you're ready, he said to Luis, I want you to start drafting a training manual, something we can use across all sites. I'll give you time off the floor to work on it. Luis raised his eyebrows. You sure you want me writing that? You're the one building the model. Isn't that the hard part? Luis smiled, nodded once, and went back to packing up. Outside, the weather had shifted. Warmer now. The wind carried the scent of nearby cut grass from a landscaping crew working the business park. Chase crossed the lot with Carla as she updated him on the compliance reports. Miriam's team finished their site audit, she said. 2 medium-level flags, one for incomplete intern exit forms from back in February and another for missing equipment inspections from last fall. Nothing recent. Both being corrected. Chase stopped walking. What about the staffing agency? They're out. We ended the contract. We're rebuilding the pool internally with a focus on part-time to full-time transitions. People want stability, not rotating faces. He nodded. That was the right call. Inside the main warehouse, Chase spotted Darnell stepping out of dispatch with 2 route logs tucked under his arm. He looked up when he saw Chase and walked over. You have a minute? Darnell asked. Of course. They stepped to the side, just under the shadow of a support beam that ran between the loading bays. I've been thinking, Darnell said, about putting together a driver fundamentals course. Not just the technical stuff, actual route planning, weather prep, troubleshooting when the GPS glitches out. We lose time every week to simple mistakes. You want to teach it? If you'll give me a few Fridays off the road. Chase extended a hand, and Darnell shook it without hesitation. Write up the proposal, Chase said. We'll build it into the next quarter's development budget. Darnell nodded, then turned back toward dispatch. Later, Chase dropped by the second-floor office now used as a rotating workspace for intern mentors. Kayla sat at the desk, typing something into a shared spreadsheet. She glanced up when he knocked lightly on the doorframe. How's the file tracking coming? He asked. She turned the screen toward him. I rebuilt it. Now every intern's tasks are logged, categorized by skill type. We can see who's getting stuck on what and why. He scanned the columns. This is solid work. I also added a feedback column, she said. They can submit comments anonymously. I figured if they're afraid to speak up, we won't know what's broken. He leaned against the edge of the desk. You planning to come back next semester? She hesitated. I thought about it. What would make you say yes? Kayla sat back in the chair. If I knew I could actually contribute, not just file papers or move boxes. I want to learn something that matters. He didn't respond right away. Then he opened the middle drawer of the desk, pulled out a slim folder, and handed it to her. Inside was an offer letter. Internship extension. Expanded responsibilities. A monthly stipend. She read it carefully, then looked up. You wrote this. I reviewed it. She folded the paper in half once, then again. I'll think about it. No rush, he said. But I hope you do. That afternoon, Chase held a floor meeting, the first of its kind in months. No clipboards, no barking. Just people gathered in a semicircle near the outbound lanes. Sleeves rolled, gloves stuffed into back pockets. Elena stood beside him. Carla too. A few of the newer hires looked unsure, but stayed. Chase started with something simple. I won't pretend we've fixed everything, he said. But we've started. And that's because of you. He didn't give a speech, just a few words about accountability. About how leadership doesn't mean giving orders, it means listening, solving, and showing up when it's uncomfortable. He told them that the next site visit wouldn't be disguised, that there would be regular check-ins. That silence wasn't protection anymore, it was a missed opportunity to make something better. Then he stepped aside and let Elena speak. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She just laid out the new expectations, the new tools, and the new support systems. When it ended, no one clapped. That wasn't the point. They just scattered back to their stations with a little less tension in their shoulders. As the day wound down, Chase took one last walk down the central aisle. The old poster near the entrance had been taken down. In its place was a whiteboard with rotating quotes from the staff, anonymous comments pulled from the new feedback system. Today's read, I finally feel like someone would notice if I didn't come in. He stared at it for a long time. Not because it was poetic, but because it was honest. And that was the whole point. Leadership wasn't about being worshipped. It wasn't about power. It was about being accountable for the world you created and being brave enough to fix it when you realized it was broken. Warehouse 7 would never be perfect. No place was. But now it was human. And that was enough.